Well, certainly in the world of COVID-19 still, there's a lot of talk about physical health, but we can't stress it enough how important it is to talk about mental health as well. And this morning, we are focusing our attention on eating disorders. And joining us this morning, and we're happy to welcome her back, Robin Piper with Turning Point of Tampa. Good to see you, Robin.
Thank you. Good to see you, Carly.
I mean that there is a lot of focus, I think, on physical health, what we can do for our immune systems and all of that, but mental health just as important. And I was asking you before we got started, as far as eating disorders, kind of what the trend was. Are you seeing more cases? And you told me what, Robin?
We're seeing more cases of people struggling with eating disorders. The isolation created by the pandemic has been more difficult for people. These kind of behaviors and issues thrive in isolation. So it's been a tough year for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think there's still a lot of education that needs to be done about eating disorders. I'm curious to learn more as well, but explain what an eating disorder is and how many different types there are.
Well, I think there are three basic types we can talk about, and there are a lot of variations in those types. So the first one is bulimia, where the individual does a lot of gorging on food or binge eating a large quantity of food, and then some kind of compensatory behavior to get rid of the food, whether it be by self-induced vomiting or excessive exercise or restricting and starving themselves or diet pills or laxatives. And then you have the food addiction, the compulsive overeaters, the people who are just binge eating without any type of getting rid of the food. And we call that food addiction here, and we look at that as an addiction. And then we have the anorexics who are starving themselves and just withholding, restricting calories or types of food that they'll eat.
Who are we seeing that, when does this start? As parents, that's what I'm thinking. When can you see signs of this? What is the age range here?
The age range for people struggling with this is all the way from 5 or 6 years old to elderly. And we know that there are children that struggle with eating disorders. And the signs and symptoms are really important to look at, but also there's not necessarily a particular type of person. Like most people think that eating disorders are really a young female population kind of disease. And that's not true. We see a lot of men with eating disorders, and we see a lot of people struggling with this kind of behavior who don't know how to get help.
I was just going to ask about myths. So obviously that's one of them right there, that it's just, young women. And certainly it affects men as well. Is there any other, myths that people need to know or watch out for?
Absolutely. Just because someone looks healthy doesn't mean they don't have an eating disorder. A lot of times that our society gets really caught up in that because people go to extreme lengths to look how society defines healthy. So just because they look healthy doesn't mean that they don't struggle or they don't have an eating disorder. Also, that families are to blame. I think that's a big myth, that if you have an eating disorder, there's something wrong with your family. And that's not true. Eating disorders can happen to people who have very loving and supportive families.
This is, most importantly, let's make sure we have enough time to talk about help and what the solutions are and what the outcomes that you're seeing for people who reach out for help.
I think an important thing when you're looking at getting help for an eating disorder is make sure you're talking to a facility or to a person who can treat the whole person. They need physical care, they need psychiatric care, they need some family therapy, group therapy, individual therapy, some body image work. Somebody who can provide all of that to you is really the way to go. And when people are engaged in the treatment process for a long enough period of time, the outcomes are really positive and really good.
Well, and that's what I hope you could share with some hope. We have little less than a minute left. What's your take home for any family member that may be watching this morning, or maybe someone's watching and is struggling, with this themselves?
I think for some hope and for families who maybe are questioning, ask questions, get some help, talk to your loved one. Don't just kind of stick your head in the sand and hope the behavior goes away or excuse the behavior away. The earlier you can catch this, the better. The more hope there is. So the more you talk about it, the easier it will get to talk about, and the easier the solution will be to get to.
Well, here is the Turning Point of Tampa. We're showing the number now, of course, the website as well. Thank you for all you and your team are doing. We certainly appreciate it. And thanks for coming on this morning again to spread that message of hope. That's what I love doing.
Thank you, Carly. Have a great day.